I am Jaina Bosonko, and this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios along Caraba Avenue. Thanks for joining us. Now the main local, business, international and sports news headlines. And we have some special reports from QTV's Aliou Cisse, the only Gambian journalist attending the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja. The Independent Electoral Commission today demonstrated the voter registration process and reminded the public that voter registration starts on the 29th of May 2021 and ends on 11 July 2021. Today is Menstrual Hygiene Day, commemorated to break the silence and raise awareness about the negative social norms around menstruation. In international news, at the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja, Ghana's president expresses the regional bloc's dismay at the latest coup d'etat in Mali. In sports news, the only AFCON qualifying tie which was not resolved between Sierra Leone and Benin is due to be settled in June. Those were the main headlines, and now the news in detail. Do stay with us. Thank you for joining us. The Independent Electoral Commission, IEC, during a press conference on Friday, demonstrated the voter registration process and reminded the public that the general voter registration starts on the 29th of May 2021 and is scheduled to end on 11 July 2021. Omar P. Jallo was there and he files in this report.
The IEC is mandated to conduct voter registration on all public elections. Thus, the Commission is conducting voter registration to register all eligible citizens to provide them the opportunity to exercise such rights. The conduct of the general voter registration is key in the electoral cycle of 2021 to 2023, and its success is pivotal to the conduct of subsequent electoral activities. The previous general voter registration was conducted in 2011 in over 636 registration centers by 800 registration officers across the country. Currently, for the 2021 general registration of voters, 220 voter registration teams have been deployed to 730 registration centers across the country. The registration will take place between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. daily. 1 million voters are expected to be registered in this exercise.
We have 53 constituencies, and these are limited to Gambians here in the Gambia. And for them to be able to vote, as therefore, there has to be change in the constitution, because they are asking for, planning to have 5 constituencies abroad. And unless this law is changed, it remains they cannot really vote. Unfortunately, we've tried everything possible to make sure, but again, unless the constitution is changed, we cannot allow them to vote.
To be qualified to register, a person has to be a Gambian citizen and should be at least 18 years old by the 4th of December 2021, the date of the next presidential election. All claimants at the time of the registration must provide one of the following Gambian documents to be qualified to register: a birth certificate, Gambian passport, national identity card, or a document certified by the district chief or an alcalo of the village of birth of the applicant, stating the applicant was born in the district or village.
A little bit similar to the one that was there before, but it's very different also, because there's another signature that is considerably different. It's now from the new chairman and so on. Now there is no fingerprint here on the corner, and before there was a little thing here that showed a fingerprint, and the design in the back is also a little bit different.
The IEC chairman Ali Momarjai also assures Gambians of the Commission Unflinching Resolve to register all eligible Gambians, while calling on Gambians and stakeholders in the electoral process to support the voter registration teams to accomplish the exercise. The Election Act mandates the IEC to conduct general voter registration every 10 years. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Register to vote. Now, the people of Gunjur Friday called on President Barrow to, among other things, help them regain formal ownership of the historical religious site that houses the Grand Mosque in the coastal settlement. Ansumana Esonyasi has the rest of that.
In what was his second congregational prayer at the infamous religious site that welcomes hundreds of worshippers and tourists, President Barrow Friday reiterated his government's commitment to maintaining peace and security in the country. and called on the people of Gunjur to maintain the peace and tranquility in the community. Commenting on the state of the Grand Mosque at the historical prayer site, President Barrow says he will extend his support to ensure the site is maintained. Various speakers, including former president of the Supreme Islamic Council, asked the president to help them maintain the mosque and build a Quranic memorization school at the site. They also requested his support to regain formal ownership of the mosque, which was taken away from the community a few years ago. Hundreds of residents and worshippers lined the premises of the mosque to show their support and appreciation to the president for visiting and performing Friday prayers at the site. Ansmane Nyasi for QTV News.
Today is Menstrual Hygiene Day, commemorated to break the silence and raise awareness about the negative social norms around menstruation. I spoke to two activists fighting to change the narrative. Here is my report. The day is celebrated every 28th of May because the average menstrual cycle is 28 days, and the average day is 5 days, and May is the 5th month of the year. The theme for this year's commemoration is action and investment in menstrual hygiene and health. We engaged the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education's Curriculum and Research Directorate about studies being conducted to examine the understanding of adolescents on issues such as menstruation. Principal Research Officer at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education conducted research on strengthening access to quality comprehensive health education in the Gambia. The research highlighted that there are policy frameworks regarding comprehensive health education, but limited evidence of its implementation. The outcomes of the research included a lack of parent-adolescent communication about sexual and reproductive health, particularly discussions on menstruation.
Concerning the reproductive health of adolescents, they lack knowledge about how to take care of themselves, what the expectation of them when they see their period. Because according to our research, we have found out that there is a gap called communication. That is, adolescents don't communicate with their parents, and parents as well do not communicate with their adolescent. That's why the adolescent, they heard about it, but they don't know how to take care of themselves. And the first time they see it, they normally don't see it in their homes. They normally see it in the schools or along the road, and someone can just stop them and tell them that something is on your skirt or blouse. And when it happens for the first time, what's happened is fear.
This is Fatoumata Kasama, founder of Girls Pride, a business brand fighting period poverty by making reusable pads available. She has managed to teach a lot of girls how to use reusable pads and stay in school.
Growing up, I had issues of accessing sanitary pads, even though I had little knowledge in school from St. Teresa's on about periods and how to manage my period, but I don't get anybody to buy pads for me at the end of the month. And then this has affected my education at some point because I will miss out of school. So when I finished schooling, I was working as a nurse. I was still thinking of what can I do to eradicate this kind of problem. So that was why I came up with this idea after learning it from practices from other people in other countries.
Kasama added that period poverty is everywhere and requires investment and education in the topic to solve the problem. Thus the team, action and investment in menstrual hygiene and health.
Period poverty, it's in the Gambia and all over the world, both in developing countries and in developed countries. It's not just about having issues or staying without having pads, but it encompasses a lot of things. Like if you lack knowledge about periods, how to manage yourself, how to manage your pain, if you cannot get pads, or you cannot get quality pads, or you cannot get adequate pads, or you cannot get access to where you can dispose your pads, where you can get water for the hygiene and all that. It's all about period poverty.
Activists say a world without period poverty and stigma is possible. To achieve the joint goal to end period poverty by 2030 is possible if we do not wait for the COVID-19 pandemic to end to continue the fight, as periods don't stop in pandemics. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jennifer Sonko. From that story, we will now take a short commercial break. Still to come, we have more local, international and sports news. Do stay tuned.
Your favorite mobile service has done it again. Now you can buy cash power with your QMoney account free of charge. Yes, you heard me right. For free. Nothing is cheaper than free. So start buying your cash power from the comfort of your homes with unbeatable services QMoney has to offer. With QMoney, life is easy. Visit your nearest Q-Money agent to cash in or call customer care on 133 for more information. Don't forget to wash your hands with soap after handling cash. Stay home, stay clean, stay safe. Q-Money, Sunyu Kalpe. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV News and I am Jenna Bosonko. The former Director General of the Gambia Public Procurement Authority appeared before the National Assembly Standing Committee on Public Petitions that is probing corruption allegations concerning the Ministry of Tourism. The former DG was answering questions in connection to the contract awarding process for the ministry's ecotourism projects. Mohamed Lamin Choi has the rest of that.
The National Assembly Standing Committee on Public Petition is hearing a petition filed by senior staff of the Gambia Tourism Board indicting officials of the board and the Tourism Ministry of corruption and abuse of power. The former Director General of Gambia Public Procurement Authority, Abdoulaye Tambidou, who is now the MD of Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation, is the third witness to appear before the committee in relation to awarding of contract for the construction of 5 ecologies. Answering to questions on the procurement process for the award of the contract for the Ecolodge project, the former GBPA DG informs the committee that he is aware of the awarding process and that GBPA initially had rejected the first evaluation report the GT board had sent for the award of contracts after detecting some deficiencies.
They did not provide us evidence that they used a civil engineering firm in the design of their requirements and also to assist them in the evaluation of the report.
5 construction companies participated in the bidding process with bid amount ranging from $12 to $26 million for the construction of each lodge. A point highlighted by the petitioners is that the GBPA had in a letter advised the GT board to divide the ecologies into lots and restrict each contractor to 1 for timely completion of the project. However, Lair Group, the company with the highest bid amount, was awarded contract for the construction of the 5 ecologies. What is a matter of dispute in the petition is why the contracts were awarded to Lair Group, the highest bidder, against the advice of the civil engineers that the figure was too high. $19.4 million was recommended by the engineers and finally approved for award of the contract by the GBPA.
He said, please be informed that approval is granted for the award of contract to Lairs Group for the construction of 5 ecologies, 1 per region, at negotiated bid price of 19.4 only. You see the last line, inclusive of 10% contingency and 1% preliminaries per ecology.
And finally comes the mystery surrounding the final approval of an award letter to Lair Group showing $22 million contrary to the $19.4 million approved by the GBPA. The former GBPA DG denies knowledge of or approval of such amount in the final award letter.
I was not aware of an award more than the approval because the GBPA should approve. The act allows that are possible that you go up to some state and there are major changes. However, there is a process that you go through which the act explains. But note and file is definitely not what you do.
The National Assembly Standing Committee on Public Petition is expected to summon more witnesses to probe the mystery of the procurement process and the award of contract to Lair Group for the construction of the 5 ecologies. Mohamed Lamin Choi, QTV News.
Studies show that women have greatly suffered from the economic impact of the pandemic, and especially by women businesses. I went out to assess the impact of the pandemic on women street vendors in the Greater Banjul area.
Are never gender neutral, and the coronavirus pandemic is no exception. The effects of the coronavirus pandemic on women businesses is very significant, and studies have shown that their recovery process might even be harder.
Women vendors in the Greater Banjul area are still battling the effects of the coronavirus pandemic, which has posed a significant threat to their survival. A recent survey of C-Trade's Gambia-supported women entrepreneurs found that 92% of previously well-performing businesses saw a reduction in their revenues. Imagine the impact this has had and continues to have on women with less formally structured businesses like street vendors. For Awa Jallow, the pandemic forced her to borrow money to sustain her business, and the effects of the pandemic on her business are still felt, despite the pandemic having started over a year ago.
Time bobu si bir marché len nek way gaay mu wa ñu jog fofu ñu ñew bor fini légui ñun tabé marché bi ni sum place yi jëlatu.
I used to be a market vendor, but I was asked to leave during the beginning of the pandemic, and now I am a street vendor. Selling during the pandemic was a challenge. You would display your products, but no one asked you how much. My products got rotten over and over again, and there were times I had to borrow money to buy products, but those also went rotten. From the money I get from my sales, I give my children pocket money for school, I pay school fees, and I also pay rent. And during the pandemic, I was unable to provide these things because I wasn't making sales. Mary Mendy Bass says she couldn't save money during the pandemic. She lived from hand to mouth due to drastic drop in custom.
Dafa affect lu bari dega because ñun time bobu non bu ñu waxé lockdown sax dafa ñu jaaxal dal because ñu ngi xalaat ne.
The coronavirus has really affected a lot. When the lockdown was announced, we were so worried because I knew it would affect us women who previously used to get money through our businesses. Before the coronavirus, I used to sell all these things before 11 a.m. But since the pandemic started till now, business is slow. The pandemic affected a lot of women whose husbands lost their jobs. As women vendors, we had to use the little we have to feed our families. Both Awa Jallow and Mary Mendy Bass called for more innovative ways to be put in place to lessen the suffering of vendors like them, in case another pandemic as severe as the coronavirus should ever so face. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Bosonko. In international news, we have a series of special reports from Abuja, Nigeria, where our correspondent, Aliou Cisse, is the only Gambian journalist attending the ECOWAS Parliament sessions.
Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo, who is also the current chairman of ECOWAS, said the sub-regional body has invested much of its political and material capital in ending the previous political tension in Mali after the overthrow of Boubacar Keita by the Malian army. Despite all parties' promise to a democratic rule, few days ago, there was a dramatic shift in the political situation which led to the arrest of the transitional president and prime minister. Mali's former junta leader, Colonel Assimi Goïta, who led the coup that ousted President Keita, has declared himself the country's transitional president. He made the announcement after stripping interim President Bandao and Prime Minister Mokhtar Anne of their powers. President Akufo-Addo said with the ECOWAS Parliament that he had authorized an ECOWAS delegation comprising the high-level mediator of the Mali crisis, former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, the chair of the ECOWAS Council of Ministers, and the president of the ECOWAS Commission to immediately visit Bamako to assess the situation and report back to him.
Regrettably, this season of rains has meant that they were unable to make their flight back from Bamako in time for this ceremony. I have not been able to receive yet a first-hand report of the situation. My instinct, though, is that we should call an immediate extraordinary emergency summit of the authority, which was responsible for ironing out the transitional arrangements, to decide on the way forward for ECOWAS and Mali. The community will be kept fully apprised of developments on this issue.
On the issues of border closures within the community, he advocated permanent open borders despite some what could be justifiable reasons such as the pandemic and movement of arms.
We must ensure that our borders do not become instruments of retrogression, especially now that our economies are dwindling due to multiple socioeconomic challenges as occasioned by COVID-19. It is wholly understandable that member states have concerns relating to the spread of the deadly virus, illegal movement of arms, ammunition, and drugs, and uncontrolled transhumance incursions. Notwithstanding, I call on all of us to find systemic measures to tackle these changes rather than temporary measures that can create further hardships for our people.
He called on the ECOWAS parliamentarians to always consider the viewpoints of the wider population they represent. Reporting for QTV News from Abuja, Nigeria, I am Aliou Cisse.
Aliou Cisse on Mali's fresh political tension. Now, the president of the ECOWAS Court of Justice, Edward Amoyeko Ashanti, has called on member states of the ECOWAS to support and defend the integrity of the court as he addressed ECOWAS parliamentarians currently in Abuja. Aliou Cisse has the rest of that.
In addressing parliamentarians at the formal opening of the 2021 first ordinary session of the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja, Nigeria, Justice Asante reminded parliamentarians that under the relevant protocol, member states are required to designate a competent national authority for the enforcement of the court's decisions. However, only 6 of the 15 member states have implemented this so far, as he calls for a holistic approach to defend the integrity of the court and ensure its smooth operation. The president of the court is also worried by the reduced tenure of the judges from 7 to 5 years at a time when there is a steady increases in cases filed before the court, which currently stands at 149 pending cases.
So far, only 6 member states, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Nigeria, and Togo, have designated their focal points. We therefore need the support of our honorable ECOWAS parliamentarians, particularly those from whose member states it has not been done, to facilitate the enforcement process by ensuring that their states set up the appropriate mechanisms for the enforcement of the decisions of the court. This will not only provide evidence of the increasing collaboration between the two institutions, it will also show our avowed commitment to discharge our obligations and contribute to the realization of the objectives of the community. All international courts, except the ECOWAS Court of Justice, have mostly 5, 7, or 9 years tenure, and some even renewable, which are also staggered to enhance and retain their jurisprudence and institutional memory. This state of our courts is a complete misnomer that must, as a matter of urgency, be corrected by the appointing authority, if the court is to maintain its pride and prestige as the best court in Africa in respect of human rights jurisprudence.
In reacting to the statements, Honorable Keba Kebaro, head of the Gambia's delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament, says the remaining countries, including the Gambia, should consider implementing this aspect of the Court of Justice. The Combo South MP also expressed support for the idea of universal election of representatives at the ECOWAS Parliament, rather than the Parliament deciding who represents a country.
We need to ensure that our institutions are strong. We need strong institutions to be able to work with the people of the community, and in doing that, one of the key areas is the cost of justice that is sitting over issues that are affecting the lives of the vulnerable members of our communities. And I think it is also important that the various institutions and governments play their role in ensuring that those institutions are strong and they do their work to support the well-being of their citizenry.
For the Liberian Vice President Jewel Siani Howard Taylor, there is so much gender inequality in the national and regional politics. Hence, it is now time that women are involved in all governance frameworks.
There are 150 members of this body, with sadly only 20 females. By the principles outlined in the existing protocols, there should be a minimum 30% of females. This means that Parliament is short of 15 more women representatives.
Vice President Howard Taylor also urged the parliamentarians to critically consider the challenges confronting the sub-region, particularly the slow or non-implementation of ECOWAS protocols, including the existence of many travel, trade and infrastructure barriers to the free movement of people, and the pending implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, among others. During the session, there will be individual delegation reports on the prevailing situations in their respective countries. Reporting for QTV News from the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja, Nigeria, I am Aliou Cisse.
Now on to some sports news. In football, Benin coach Michel Doche has announced a list of 23 players for his side's decisive game against Sierra Leone in the rescheduled March Day 6 game of the Africa Cup of Nations qualifications Cameroon 2021. The Leone Stars are yet to announce their plans. Theirs is the only tie that was not concluded. More in this report by Mamoudou Gajaga.
Patriots of Benin and Leone Stars of Sierra Leone in June following the controversial postponement of their match fixture. The initial match was abandoned after Benin protested the results of a medical examination which named 5 of their squad members as positive for COVID-19. The first left the final place at next year's Africa Cup of Nations undecided on the last day of qualifying. The Benin coach says he expects a tough mission against Sierra Leone. "I am sure this will be a complicated match. There is a lot of energy in the Sierra Leonean team. There are players who are very motivated because they did not qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations before." The Frenchman further said, "If you look at their results, they were unbeaten twice against Nigeria, and the only defeat they suffered was against us. We are expecting a difficult match," he told CAF Online. Benin has lined up a friendly against Zambia on 8 June to fine-tune its tactics before the Sierra Leone decider. However, Sierra Leone will fancy their chances against Benin, playing at home, where they have a good record. Sierra Leone need to win at home to reach the tournament for the first time in 25 years, while the visitors only need a draw. Nigeria is the only team to have qualified from Group L after emerging top with 14 points. In the group standings, Nigeria finished first on 14 points and have already qualified. Benin closely came in second on 7 points with 1 game less. Sierra Leone, 4 points, also had a game less. Lesotho, 3 points at the bottom of the group. For Benin, Sierra Leone and African football, the hope is the match proceeds without any further drama. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News.
Finally, before we end, here's a recap of our main news headlines. The Independent Electoral Commission today demonstrated the voter registration process and reminded the public that voter registration starts on the 29th of May 2021 and ends on 11 July 2021. Today is Menstrual Hygiene Day, commemorated to break the silence and raise awareness about the negative social norms around menstruation. In international news, we had 2 special reports from our correspondent attending the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja, including at the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja, Ghana's president expressed the regional bloc's dismay at the latest coup d'etat in Mali. In sports news, the only AFCON qualifying tie, which was not resolved between Sierra Leone and Benin, is due to be settled in June. Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Thanks for watching, and do join us tomorrow same time for more news. Have a great weekend.